Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Pickle Juice. As always, it's your boy Zook, and I am super excited to have you all join me here tonight. Episode 11, maybe 12, maybe 13. The point is, y'all know what we're all about here now. It's all pickleball, all the time, the fastest growing sport in the world, the coolest sport in the world, the sexiest sport in the world. I've been bringing to you top pros and other people involved with the game. It's no different tonight. I'm excited to be joined by one of the best players on tour. And when I invite him up, we'll go through some of the metrics, really just one metric that I'm using to determine that. But without any further ado, I invite to you guys today for this episode, my good friend, and let me make sure I pronounce this right, Joey Farias. Joey, was that good?
That was very good.
Not too Americanized, right? Still
No, that
had
was,
some of that true homeland.
that's right. It had a nice little roll of the R there. It was perfect.
I appreciate that. I'm super excited to have you here tonight. I meant what I said when I was introing you. I think you are one of the best players out there. As I also mentioned to you, one of the least known of the top echelon players in terms of not people knowing you and knowing that you're great at pickleball, but knowing a little bit more, having these deep dive conversations that we're going to have here tonight that I think is super important as pros such as yourself begin to grow that brand, that there is other stuff than just performing on the court. I think in this sport, which is what makes it really unique. And I hope people that listen to this decide to become some deeper and more diehard fans of yourself, Joey.
That's the plan for sure.
So let's start. I said to you behind the scenes that I'm going to ask you a lot of questions to try and just get some answers. Let's take it back to the beginning. How did Joey become a professional pickleballer?
Oh man. So moved from Texas to Michigan. First off, we'll get to how I even found pickleball the first time. College, there was a class that there was going on. And there was broom ball was like 1 week. And then the second week was this sport called pickleball that I thought was fake. I thought it was badminton and they just like lowered the nets because the other guy, like they didn't have badminton equipment or something. I don't know. And it looked a lot like tennis, got pretty good at it there. And then just never really heard of it again for another, I don't know, 6 years or so, 7 years. And then I moved to Michigan from Texas. I was at Michigan Athletic Club, and in the very back of that club, we had 4 pickleball courts. There I met DJ Howard. He was one of the other tennis pros there. He's now one of the leading teaching pros here in the U.S., works for or player for Gamma, does a bunch of their camps. I also was lucky enough, my first time on court was with the guy named Dan O'Toole. We did some singles, right? So he wanted to practice some singles, and then finally convinced me to play some doubles because I'd kind of watched a little bit of doubles and it looked kind of boring, to be honest. Then he brought out Simone Jardim, Corinne Carr, DJ Howard, and Dan O'Toole and myself. And yeah, we had a blast. That turned into a little bit of a bigger group with Eric Hansen, some other guys. And it became a weekly thing. We would go to the bar and eat and drink after each Wednesday night. And then I saw the girls start, slowly traveling, playing a little bit more. They went to a national tournament that I wasn't interested in playing yet. They did really, really well, obviously. And then, I decided to go play a couple of like local tournaments just to see how it was, have fun. Dan asked me to play in a couple as his doubles partner, both O'Toole and Howard. And then my wife and I took a trip to Naples for the first time to go play the first ever U.S. Open. And
did you play with her?
No, so I played. Did not play mixed doubles. I played pro singles, and I think it might have been called pro doubles, but it was like a weird. For doubles, it was if you won, you went the first match, you went to the pro main draw. If you lost, you went into a 5-0 main draw.
Okay.
We ended up playing the team that got like fourth, I believe. It was Matt Staub and Robert Elliott, and lost in 3. And then me and DJ Howard ended up winning the 5-0 that year, won some money, which was nice. And that was like, I got sponsored by Engage pretty soon after. And yeah, started playing a little bit more, traveling some, played a couple tournaments, and then played nationals a year later. Ended up doing really well there. I think I finished 4th or so in singles. Had a good showing in doubles, and then I ended up breaking a paddle or two in singles, not on purpose. It just flew. I hit a backhand, and the handle flew, and ended up not being able to get another paddle that was like my weight and stuff, which was unfortunate in the semis of pro singles. And yeah, after that, Gearbox kind of stepped in and said, "Hey, I have a paddle that won't break on you." And yeah, I've been with them ever since, and it's been such a great family, and that's how I got started here.
You have a unique origin story that's different from a lot of the pros that I just hear you say, because a lot of the pros, they found pickleball very recently and then stuck with it, and then during this craze just developed that skill that led them to become a pro. You had that little bit of interaction with the game, like you said, 6 years before you really started taking it up, lost it for a little bit, and then refound it. Do you think if you didn't have that initial experience 6 years prior, you would have hit the ground as hard as you did kind of your second time around with the game?
No, I think the Dan O'Toole, that whole group, they made it so much fun. It was something else to be competitive in, and have people at my level and be able to play with and practice with and stuff like that was really fortunate. Because in tennis, it was hard to find players at my level to kind of have a good time playing with. And if I could, it was like 2-3 players, not 10 or 12 like in pickleball, which made it even more social, more fun. And yeah, I kind of saw where it was going, started getting asked for like lessons and stuff pretty early, and saw that it was definitely trending higher than tennis even then. So that was in like 2016 or so. Yeah, my wife was like, "You got to quit making that a hobby. You're spending too much time playing pickleball and traveling." And I told her, I was like, "It's gonna lead to something, I promise." And yeah, sure enough, got some good sponsors. Now I'm basically making a living from straight pickleball.
That's
Was
awesome.
on the road for about 2.5 years, kind of traveling, doing camps, stuff like playing a bunch of tournaments. In this last almost 2 years, year and a half or so, kind of really slowed down in terms of playing the amount of tournaments I had in the past. I took a job in Port St. Lucie, Florida. I'm the director of sports there, so I oversee tennis, pickleball, and bocce. And
Oh, wow.
getting that all situated was a big plan of mine, because I wanted to be nice and stable there. It's a great opportunity. And yeah, just in the last probably 2 or 3 months, finally feeling almost 100% comfortable, and they've been kind of pushing me to start traveling more and playing more and getting my name more out there, so they can help get people to buy houses here at Riverland.
We're joined in the back now. I think he just showed up by Norway Johnny. Johnny, how you doing, brother?
Dealing with some storms here in Norway. Beautiful night last night, or 2 nights ago. Had some aurora borealis up here, but now it's wet, which they're used to this time of year. So doing well otherwise. Joey, great to meet you informally, or not in person.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's just some bad luck, right? Going from Florida now to Norway, where you tried to leave the weather and now you end up getting hit by weather a little bit. But I'm happy you're safe, Johnny. I know it's the middle of the night there. I always appreciate you waking up to do this. But so far, you didn't. We got into a little bit about Joey's origin story.
Yep.
The thing that's interesting about him that I pointed out is me and you, the conversations we have with pros. A lot of people have found this game over the last 2 or 3 years and have stuck with it till then. The one thing about Joey is he discovered the game 6 years prior to even picking it up again, and then kind of went on this hiatus. I thought that was an interesting relationship with the game, because me personally, I'm 28. I started playing pickleball for the first time about 20 years ago when I was 7, 8 years old. So I'm one of I tell that to people and they're like, oh shit, you're an OG. I'm like, no, I just played it at day camp with my friends. But how that worked is from the age of 8 to 13, I went to this one camp where every summer I played it. I'd go back to school and people would be like, I don't want to hit this wiffle ball with a big ping pong paddle. I want to take a wiffle ball bat and play some wiffle ball. So we never played pickleball besides at this camp. Long story short, I get old enough to where my parents sent me to sleepaway camp. I don't really play pickleball again until, sparingly when I see it in college, but really for another decade and a half. But the reason why I asked that question to you, Joey, about your first experience is because what I found, obviously because I played the game in the past, now during this new craze and the new run that everyone's had with it, it was so much easier for me to be like, yeah, this is real. This isn't something that was just created. This isn't something new. This is a game I played, about 20 years ago. So that's why I was wondering if that earlier relationship you had is what kind of made it you so gung-ho. Like you even said to your wife, you were like, yeah, we're going to make money off this. This thing is legit. This thing is real. So I kind of like that experience you've had.
Yeah. Like I said, I thought it was a fake sport. We had just finished broom ball, which is definitely fake. We were on scooters, playing floor hockey. And so I was like, okay, this is definitely fake. I don't even know if the teachers, whoever was doing it, knew the rules. Pretty sure I was in the kitchen hitting. And when I got back, so years later, when I found it in Michigan, it was basically brand new again. I'd kind of seen it, seen the cord, and it looked very familiar. But all the rules and stuff were still brand new. But it didn't take long. I had good mentors there at the beginning that were already well-established players. So it didn't take long for me to get pretty good at this game.
And that, to me, it sounds like a critical component of this. Obviously, if you're playing with, Simone Jardim and some other just top-level talent, it's amazing. We were talking, I believe it might have been last call that we had with Brandon and Sekpong, just some of the pockets of pickleball that have really popped up. You see that definitely in Austin, Texas, Southwest Florida, where I'm from. You've obviously got that whole West Coast of Florida and also the East Coast now as well. Plenty of talent. Utah, there's definitely some locations that do that, but sounds like that was absolutely an integral part to you taking that leap into the pro scene. Correct, Joey?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know without that if I would have come on to the pro scene so quickly. It would have taken me a while for sure to get really interested in the game, and I probably would have, just kept kind of playing it for fun here and there. And then once I saw it start getting bigger and maybe the second, third US Open and, big nationals, stuff like that, maybe like, oh, maybe I should look back into this game. But yeah.
Now tell us, obviously, I think there was a little bit of a shift, right? Pre-pandemic, post-pandemic, you have now new leagues that are active in the scene compared to what was there before. Right. So tell us a little bit about just, the feel. Was there a different feel or vibe to those earlier U.S. Opens and other tournaments than there would be, say, today?
Oh, absolutely. Those earlier tournaments, I remember just showing up at random parks for tournaments, right? It was these tiny parks. Some of them had actual courts. Most of them were still temporary courts put on tennis courts. And we'd be in the middle of a park, just with a front desk there, maybe a company with a little tent to sell some paddles, but nothing crazy. And it seemed kind of like a big barbecue that was going on with pickleball in the middle. And the first US Open was probably the most professional one at the time. And it was still they didn't have a covered court or anything. So it was at a city park. It happened to be pretty big. And their difference was they had music and a little bit, some stands to watch and stuff like that on a center court. And I think that became more of a party atmosphere, the US Open itself compared to most other tournaments. And then we really didn't see it get super professional until the first nationals that was in Indian Wells. When it changed to there, you saw what it could be when they brought scoreboards and the bigger stands and how many people were watching, stuff like that. All these, sponsors and companies coming into the game. You started seeing really expanding in terms of people trying to, get into pickleball, whether it was on the business side or start playing. Start seeing more tennis players coming in, stuff like that. And then, these two companies, start fighting right away. It was APP kind of announced first. And then PPA just came out and tried to blow them out of the water with these big prize money tournaments that first year. And that's when we saw, as players especially, that was a great thing for us. It was like they're competing, they just keep raising the stakes. Because our first try at professional pickleball, cannot remember the name of it, was a league that we had that ended up not making it after a year. They were supposed to have a year-end championships and at nationals in Casa Grande, and just didn't quite make it to even that last tournament. But that was their initial attempt at it. Just didn't have the right people, I guess, in place to really get sponsors and stuff like that. And these two companies, APP and PPA, have done such a great job. And now we have even this bigger thing, Major League Pickleball, which is, that's through the roof right now. Steve and his whole team have done an amazing job marketing it, getting people on board. And now we got, big celebrities trying to jump in and buying teams. Who ever thought that?
Not trying to anymore. They're in, right? They're head first.
Cannot. Buying a pickleball team. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, we got Zook back, so no worries there. We're holding the fort down for you, Zook.
Johnny, that's why I'm so lucky to have you, dude. Verizon is. I'm not gonna go on my soapbox on this stream because I do it on every other stream. No bigger scam in this world than Verizon. No bigger scam in this world than Verizon. And I don't want to cut into what you guys were talking about, but one thing that I just wanted to ask about, because Johnny talked about those pockets where all these geographical places that people are starting to play. And I'm going to use a more powerful word than I mean, but I'll strip it down. Is one thing that I'm very interested in is almost like tribalism, and specifically tribalism when it comes to sports. Like, I'm very interested in how the English Premier League is different than La Liga, which is different than the French league. So has pickleball gotten to the point yet? And Johnny, you can also answer this because you're much more traveled when it comes to playing around the country than I am. Like, I know we're saying Southwest Florida, Austin, Southern Cal. We can even talk about Michigan now if we want to talk about where Joey met these people. Is pickleball still being played the same in each place, and is the atmosphere around the game the same in each space, and those are all just hubs? Or along with being hubs, are each of those places slightly offering something different that you like about each?
Joey, I'll definitely let you take the lead on that one, and then I'll just chime in with what I've observed here in the last 18 months.
Yeah, so kind of starting in Michigan, it was, almost, it was just fortunate that we had that group of players that came in that were high-level tennis players coming into the sport. And then I saw that trend. So it's basically these states that had very high-level tennis started becoming big pickleball spots. So like the original ones were Michigan, Arizona, California, Florida, and Southern Cal, and Florida, Southern Florida. Those were kind of the bigger ones. Texas and Atlanta or Georgia were big tennis states, but they weren't quite pickleball yet. They didn't quite get the bug.
Rob Nunnery was mentioning that on his on the pod this week, especially Atlanta. Right, and Atlanta seems to be a place that's just stuck in neutral.
Correct.
Trying to get
they're
launched
still
with
battling. But we saw those pockets, start coming in, and then maybe a year later, when I started kind of traveling more and teaching and playing some tournaments, I saw that Utah had so many courts all over the place. It was kind of like crazy. They had like these family nights where you'd see all the courts being taken. People didn't know what they were doing, but they were out there playing. And then just a bunch of athletes started getting a hold of it. We had Randy Zabinden, Rob Davidson, Zane Affleck. I remember traveling over there to go get practice. They were all in St. George, Utah. It happened to be this one little area with, 7 to 10 5-0 pros at that time in like 2017, 2018. It was a great spot to go out and practice. Same thing as like traveling to like Bobby Riggs with the Dawsons and that whole crew. And they just, they've expanded since. And yeah, that was a great spot to go try to find some practice and stuff like that. And then slowly, Simone took a job at the U.S. Open courts after she won the first U.S. Open. And yeah, we started seeing that area grow. And then, Florida, she got tennis players more involved. Same with Kyle, starting to get people involved. Ben was out there just starting with Kyle. Yeah, and those were like the original pockets. So we used to travel to those just to go get some practice. And I think that's what we're seeing now with Austin, is as the game is expanding and there's bigger sponsors, bigger money to be made by getting sponsored, doing well. We're starting to see players kind of dive all in and like trying to move to a place where they can get great practice. Austin being one of them. Now Southeast Florida, we have the Johnsons, the Waters, Anna Bright, Bobby Oshiro, and we got Eden, all these guys that are out here playing. And then we have the new blood from here, Federico and all those guys that are in, Southwest Florida, just showing up, these tennis guys coming over here and killing the game for me.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm in the New York City area, so the only like real pro that I know from here that I've had the pleasure to talk to is Alex Newman, and I know the one thing that we always bitch about is like he's got to get to Florida so often, and because in like New York City there's 1 or 2 courts. There was actually just a mandate today. I was talking from Eric from New York City Pickleball. They're trying to limit the lights from 11 p.m. to 8 p.m., so even less pickleball will be allowed, but it doesn't impact the tennis courts. For some reason, they're just trying to mess with the lights of the pickleball courts. And then where that is causing a problem is New York City also just released this report that all the tennis court owners and tennis court members are so upset that pickleball players in New York City are going around and like putting tape on the courts so they line up for pickleball courts. But it's like, if no one's using your courts for tennis, let us use it for pickleball. But I totally get what you're saying in terms of, because I've talked to Alex Newman about it, and he knows when this thing is up and running and he's revving and he's doing this full time. Like, you just probably got to find your way into one of these pockets or hope there's enough one-off pros that kind of find themselves in New York City that a pocket almost forms, because you need that. You need that right now as the competitiveness gets more. There's going to be very little, I think, in the next year of us hearing, hey, this is a guy that is a pickleball vigilante at night, but is crunching numbers during the day, right? To make the podium, you're going to have to be from Southwest Florida, be from Austin, Texas, be from somewhere where you can play 24/7.
Yeah, that's a big part. Alex did it right in terms of not necessarily having to move, but he was one that kind of went early to a lot of tournaments, and he was always on court playing rec play, playing this, just trying to get, as many repetitions at that high level, whether it's practice or actual tournament play, to get better, because he couldn't do it at home. He didn't have anybody there to really push him. And that's how, a lot of us started at the beginning when there wasn't really like big hubs, was, just go out and play as many tournaments as you can, spend a bunch of hours the day before, right after you are out, keep playing. Now we don't see that as much because of the hubs. After that people are done, they're done for the day. We see a little bit of practice here and there for the following day, maybe, but not as much as there was in the first couple of years that I started playing.
Hey, you guys might have seen this, and we were talking a little bit about celebrities, Joey. But Shaun White,
I saw that.
Acclaimed snowboarder, skateboarder. He showed up in New York. Looks like that was in New York. They're doing a little photo shoot with his Selkirk Power Air. So a little flex on the equipment. But he was there. We've talked a little bit. Obviously, there's even bigger news just in terms of stake in the game. But man, Joey, you rewind back to some of these games where you're, as Frank Anthony Davis put it when he switched from APP to PPA full time, playing across from the Waffle House a couple years back. This is warp speed.
Yeah.
What did you imagine this in the year 2022?
Not quite this fast. I saw it kind of going, I thought that it was going to take a little longer just because there was a couple of things that I thought was going to hold it back. One was the scoring. I think even now, like, it's getting closer, but like PPA, APP still use traditional scoring. MLP switched to rally scoring. I thought that was a big part in pickleball getting bigger, is just overall switching to rally scoring. As much as people may hate it because it's so different, I don't understand people's arguments of what makes pickleball so unique and awesome that it's going to all of a sudden become big whenever we have proof in history that no other sport that started with our scoring system made it, right?
Yeah.
Volleyball, ping pong, badminton, all of them tried it. None of them became an Olympic sport or anything like we're shooting for until they switched over to rally scoring. Right?
I think, Johnny, you got to drop off to change your networks.
Yep, I'll be right back, guys.
Beautiful, brother. No, Joey, that's so interesting. Why? And I preface this by saying I may disagree with you, so I'm very interested in this conversation. What is it about rally scoring that makes you, but take away, I understand that the proof of concept point of it, like I buy into that, so I get that. But what is it about the rally scoring that it's what people have wanted to watch?
Yeah, it's more universal. I mean, think about it. If you were flipping through the channels and you saw cricket or rugby, are you going to sit there and watch it even though you don't know what's going on? Right? You don't understand that when they kick it here, they're getting, 4 points this time, 7 points this time. But if it was, you saw them hit the ball and it went, over a fence or something unique like baseball, and you saw that the score went to 1-0, then you're like, oh, I'm understanding this. It's the same thing for pickleball right now. Is if it's on TV on Tennis Channel or on ESPN and CBS and someone tunes in that's never played pickleball, they watch 5 minutes of it and the score is 0-0, but they've seen points being won by the team that has 0, they're going to lose interest, right? They're not many people are going to go and be like, oh, let me see what pickleball is online and Google it and see what the scoring is and try to understand that. No. But if they saw, every point counted as a point, it reminds them of tennis, of ping pong, of something else that they'll be more intrigued to keep watching it, and then hopefully go out and learn it. And I think that's a big part of it, because to really understand pickleball, you would have had to have actually played it to get the scoring for the most part. And I think that was a big step in moving forward, is MLP trying to take that jump to make it more user friendly, or for people to watch viewer friendly, and it'll make things more exciting. Games will be closer, stuff like that, because obviously with our traditional scoring, it's a little harder to score against good teams. At some point you can go to a stalemate, and with rally scoring it's hard to do that.
All right, here, let me give you my spiel. My spiel is, I don't disagree with I'll start off by saying I don't disagree with what you're saying in terms of onboarding new people seeing the game for the first time. 100%. It obviously makes more sense if people have seen this sort of rally scoring that they're used to. My thing, and this is actually it's just the personal preference, because it has nothing to do with how the style actually impacts the game. From just my enjoyability standpoint, I like non-rally scoring, because there's something about the runs that can happen that, for me, I love it. And the other side of it is exactly what you said. Like, you could have these crazy stalemates that sometimes get annoying. But another thing you have to know about me is I'm a diehard Pittsburgh Steelers fan, so I grew up watching ugly sporting events. And I watched 6-3 football games. I watched 10-7 football games. I get that. But no, truthfully, there's a little bit of, like, if you say you're down 10-3 and you're on serve, and you know that if you lose the point, your opponent gets the serve, but your opponent doesn't win the game, then they can't get the point, you're more likely to take a chance at going for the line, to go for it, to do something like that. So just specifically from the way that I enjoy seeing people play the game, um, I kind of enjoy that non-rally. Again, to peel it back even further, we've had less MLP than anything else, right?
Right.
So I've been a lot more um, introduced to this. Let me see all these cool things that can happen when you don't have a rally scoring. That I bet you, if the MLP releases whatever they say, 6, 9, 12 events next year, and the people and the public get to see more of these crazy things happen with the rally scoring on top of it being a lot more appetizing for people watching for the first time, that may be the magic sauce that you need.
Yeah. Yeah. As far as enjoyment, it is still probably a little more fun as a competitor to play our normal scoring system. Um, yeah, like you said, I don't mind the chess match. I don't mind the stalemates. It makes it more intriguing. I think strategies and stuff will evolve as rally scoring starts getting more and more popular if we start using that more. I think we're still in the early stages of how players will actually be playing with rally scoring. I think we're still learning. You know, if we play more aggressive, more defensive in certain situations, depending on score and stuff like that, I think that'll change once we get more comfortable with it. But yeah, in order for this sport to grow, right, we need bigger sponsors. Bigger sponsors want more people watching, and that's what it comes down to. They don't want more pickleballers playing. They don't care about that, right? We can have as many pickleballers as we want playing. We can have 5 million people playing, but they want 500 million people watching. And just when they put it on social media, on TV, on this, that their ads getting watched by so many people because the sport's intriguing somebody to look at it.
No, that's a solid point. Let's dive deeper into the more exciting stuff that I like to talk about. We talked a little bit about the sports, but let's break down Joey in between the lines now. You seem like a extremely mild mannered human being sitting here and having this conversation with you. And this is a little bit of a leading question because I have a follow up after this. But how competitive do you allow yourself to get when you go in between those lines?
Oh yeah, I'm still very, very much so competitive. Who doesn't? I mean, hate losing. However, this is I've seen this sport as kind of like my second chance. I played tennis, got hurt, didn't realize that I was ever going to be able to compete in something else professionally like pickleball. So just stepping on the court and playing in front of people is amazing. So as competitive as I can get out there, I don't usually let it overwhelm me to the point where I'm throwing my paddle or anything like that. Usually, if I'm going to throw my paddle, it's because somebody hooked me or bad line call or something like that. But in terms of like my play, if I play bad or something, then I'm playing bad. If they're kicking my ass, they're kicking my ass, and that's it. I'm just enjoying being out there and fortunate for it.
Well, let's see how competitive you are because my follow-up question is there enough do you feel there's enough respect on the Joey Farias name when people talk about the top pickleball players on the tours right now?
Yeah, for the most part. I mean, I think I've made my name obviously early on. These last, like I said, like these last 2 years have been on and off just because of how little I've been able to actually play. Um, Due to trying to be stable here at work and getting that all situated. This year I've been able to play a little bit more and my results are getting a little more back to normal. But yeah, so hopefully in these next couple months, I'll be able to really step up, starting to have more time, and like more time being able to train and stuff like that than actually being on court teaching. I'm getting staff behind me that is doing more of the lessons and stuff like that. So yeah, here in the future, you should see my name more and more. I mean, I'm planning on it.
Are you
Now,
still
to Zook's
Oh no,
point,
go ahead.
Zook,
Go ahead,
let
Johnny.
me ask this because
Yeah.
to Zook's point, right? There aren't that many beat writers in pickleball at this time, right? There's a few out there. How close are you keeping tabs on the few beat writers in pickleball, Joey?
Oh man. Not really.
Not really. All right. Well, I'll spare you some names, but there was a recent top 25 in men's doubles that came out. There was a little bit of a debate out there online whether you should have been in that top 25 or not. You were left off of Adam Stone's recent top 25 in the world. How does that make you feel? Do you feel like you would slot in there in that top 25? Do you feel like that
100%.
takes more playing?
No, I mean it went by. He did a lot by, basically hoping that players would get to that level. They had upside, stuff like that. Yeah, we can do that with any sport. Like there's upside in, LeBron's son coming to basketball. He's top 20 already. Like, come on.
Yeah, it's like when the people put Justin Herbert or Joe Burrow before Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady, right? It's like a good season here or there, but you need a drive in the fourth quarter in the NFC Championship. You know, these people that are rooting, saying Joe Burrow's better than Tom Brady, are quickly choosing Tom Brady in that moment, right?
100%. Yeah, I mean, you see it all the time where, like Tyson loses in the semis of a singles tournament, and people are saying, "Oh, this guy's are finally better than Tyson." Tyson's been the top 2 player in the world in singles for 5 years. Wait till those guys get to that level to realize they're passing him. It's hard to like justify, 1 or 2 tournaments, and everybody's going to have bad matches and stuff like that for them to be like, okay, he's already better than them.
I find that a lot with Lee Waters. Actually, Lee Waters probably gets the most flack online when I see YouTube comments and a lot of like armchair quarterback stuff, right? And when you think about how strong, that duo and Lee Waters is, they came right back and won a championship in the last tournament they played in, right? So I do think that there's a lot of quick trigger pulling right now out there, just in the Twitter spaces and the YouTube comments and whatnot. I will give a little shout out to NML Pickleball. They came to the Joey Farias defense, so they put in a nice little note for you there on their article that they put out. But all that to say, it's a constantly evolving sport, and if you don't have the depth of watching, right, the body of work isn't just the last tournament. That's what everyone wants it to be. That's what everyone can comment on. But the body of work goes beyond that. So, and I think you're just a great testament to that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, like you said, Lee Waters, even Colin Johns, like those players that are playing with the best player in the world, and men or women, they hit the most balls. You think Ben hits more balls than Colin in a tournament? No. You think Lee hits less balls than Annalie? She can only cover so much court, right?
Yeah.
Ben may be an argument. That guy covers a lot of court. But yeah, I mean, they still have to do their part in order for that team to work. And I think it's a pretty big part, right? How many times have you gone out and played rec play and been like, oh, we lost because of my fucking partner?
Every time I lose, brother. Every fucking time I lose.
Yeah, you kidding me? Like, it takes the entire team to be a great team in order to win that many championships as those 2 teams have.
That's funny. And we're talking about opinions now and power rankings like that. The one thing I did want to bring up is Duper has you ranked as the top player of your age and gender. So, considering, there's all these opinion pieces out there of where people stand, did you ever think that you would technically be the best in the world at your age at a professional sport?
Heck no. Yeah, no way. Yeah, once tennis was out of the loop, maybe, I don't know, pinball or something, I don't know. But yeah, no way. Yeah, that's crazy. It's funny to see all their metrics. I'm liking where Duper's going with their style of the ratings and stuff like that. It is crazy that we have so many different kinds of ratings right now and how they're all competing. But yeah, Duper seems to, they have a pretty established plan where they worked with UTR, right? A lot of those people that are now with Duper came from UTR. Those that don't know UTR, it's one of the most recognized tennis ratings in the world right now. I think Duper will get there with pickleball eventually. Yeah, they have a great team again behind them, and a lot of smart people doing things that I couldn't do. So, yeah, I love that rating.
Yeah, I think some of that has to do with scale, right? I think the more they're able to scale that, particularly beyond the professional level, and it sounds like they're really working at that now, right? With some of these different league play type formats they're coming out with. I think it's just fascinating stuff. And in this day and age, technology, things are mobile. That's what the real enthusiast is going to want, right? They're going to want the real deal. They're not going to want the watered down rec play anymore. And the more this scales, it's going to be great. So I fully agree with you there.
The Hayshay power rankings, regardless of gender, go Lee Whitwell 1 and Joey 2. So I think Joey will take those rankings and run with them and put as much stock into those as he does with some of the other ones. So
Yeah, absolutely.
Just as we're on the talk of businesses in pickleball too, Joey. I mean, we can't overlook the fact that you're working at Riverland. You've had successful tournaments there now as well. Tell us just a little bit, maybe pull back the curtain on the business side of what you do, because I think that's something that not everyone gets to hear much about. And there's just so much that goes into it. Kyle Yates obviously hosted a major tournament, well, a big indoor tournament up in New Jersey a few weeks back. And I just don't think people realize how much goes into doing what you do.
Yeah, there's bits and pieces to everything. So like there used to be like, this tournament hosted by Tyler Leung or Kyle and stuff like that, where, the tournament director would basically call us, see if we were interested in going. They would pay us to go, put our name on it, and then pay us a little extra just if they hit a certain metric of people that signed up, right? Now, we're seeing, like Kyle got involved with this tournament on the actual business side where he put some work in, same as like the Riverland tournament we had here with Simone, being the host. We kind of called her, see if we can get her tournament moved from the Naples area to our side. So it was, yeah, fortunately I've known her for quite a while, so I was able to get her there. And yeah, being able to work with PPA hand in hand, stuff like that, kind of seeing the intricacies of, getting sponsors. What do we, charge for sponsorship time? Like getting the metrics of how many viewers that we've had at past tournaments, what we're expecting on this one. That way we can figure out numbers. Same as like our facility, we grew from 13 courts to 37 courts, basically a week before that tournament came in. Is when we kind of finished making those last 20 some courts. And yeah, it was definitely unique, going that much. I'd run a couple small tournaments when I was back in Tucson. I'd moved from Michigan to Tucson and ran a couple of very small ones at a country club there that I was working at. But we had, 200, 300 players, something like that. So yeah, working with pickleball tournaments and getting some local sponsors and getting people to come, put their tents in so people had gear to go look at and stuff like that. Now once I post about a tournament, I'm getting calls and emails and, wanting to be there. How much are you charge for this spot, vendor spots? How much airtime can I get? All that stuff. And yeah, it's just, every year it keeps growing and growing, and we're starting to see the numbers get higher and higher for those spots. And yeah, just these venues are getting bigger and bigger because they want to host, these 1,000, 2,000 people tournaments. And it's crazy just how many of these tournaments happen, right? It's not like it used to be where it was, every tournament was 100, 150, 200 players. And then we had maybe 3 out of the whole year that were these majors that had over 1,000, maybe even 2,000 people. Well, now it's like every weekend you're getting close to 1,000 people playing in tournaments.
You go on pickleballtournaments.com, and each weekend there's legit like 10, 15, 20 tournaments, and you can go, and you might not recognize the names, but you go on the roster, and all these tournaments are filled with like 50 to 100 people that are trying to play. So I'm with you in terms of the nuances have slowly changed, but rather quickly in this rapid expanding environment where, like you said, you really didn't have, it was just throwing it. And that was the hard part. You didn't have to compete with anyone else. Now it's,
Right.
hey, I have to put it on, and I have to make it also appetizing enough that, someone in middle America wants to go, down to Florida or up to Michigan over going to, Austin or
Yeah.
California because there's another tournament going on that week. So, me and Johnny talk about tour wars, but the one thing that we never talk about that we're kind of talking about now is there is these hundreds of other tournaments happening outside of the three major tours that are also now, jockeying back and forth for, it's kind of, and I don't want to poo-poo because these tournaments are great, but it's kind of like what happens in Florida, right? Florida and FSU, you get like the 5-star recruits, and then UCF and all the schools, you're still fighting for great, great, great resources. And, maybe a year ago when there was only a UCF, now there's, the equivalent of 10, 20
Yeah.
different schools all recruiting at the same weekend. And I'll follow that up with something that we can kind of end with also. If we were sitting here in a year from now and we've talked about all these things you're involved with, you want to pick it up and you want to play again, you're teaching, you're instructing, you're also planning tournaments on the side. We sit here, me, you, and Johnny, October 4th, 2023, next year, and you go, damn, I accomplished everything that I set out to accomplish in the year 2023. And I said, okay, tell me exactly what you did. What would that list look like for you?
Man, just up my travel, start competing more. That way there's no question that I'm in that top 25 for anybody. That'll be, basically number one. Number two, it would be, getting another big tournament out here at Riverland, right? Probably like two big tournaments coming out here this year would be the plan. And then third one is maybe going back to traveling just a little bit to go and teach. Kind of missed that. I've been teaching mainly here in Florida. I did a pickleball getaway with Ben and Deckel and them in Portugal. And so, do maybe some more with them and then go a couple other spots in the U.S. that I've gone before that, that I really enjoy teaching at, and going to do that. I think that would make my next year about as successful as I want it to be.
Is there any MLP in your future?
Oh yeah, absolutely. With MLP, since it's growing, it'll be hard not to be a part of it. I think, basically just with me upping my tournament schedule and stuff like that, that's going to go hand in hand with getting drafted and all that good stuff. And being able to be a little bit more consistent in my level of play. I've been like a roller coaster because of my time on court, basically. And now I'm able to start putting actual time playing instead of just teaching 3-0s. So it'll definitely help.
So just trying to read the tea leaves here, Joey, because obviously there's just a lot of action. I mean, you alluded to this early in the call about just how much MLP is blowing up. Obviously, you've worked hand in hand with PPA as well. I still contend that all of these leagues really are building each other up, right? Even if there is a tour war happening, a three-way tour war happening, it's really good for business. It's really good for the viewer. And in the end, it's really good for the player. But if you're reading the tea leaves for yourself, Joey, and I know you've had mixed results in MLP already up to this point, what's an ideal scenario for you for getting drafted on an MLP team? Who are some of the players you'd love to play with?
I think he's going to say LeBron, right? That's everybody's
players,
answer.
But then I was going to say, who are the owners who are hoping to draft you? And just tell us a little bit about what that would look like for you here heading into 2023.
Oh, man. Player-wise, there's not too many players I wouldn't enjoy playing with. That's something that's kind of cool about pickleball right now, that we're still small enough that most of the pros are friends on and off the court. So, we might try to kick each other's ass, and then later that night we're, having food and drinks together at a restaurant, stuff like that. Where when I was even just playing, semi-professional tennis, I wouldn't want to see that other person anywhere after I lost to them or anything like that. So yeah, that's definitely unique. So yeah, playing with people, there's not many I wouldn't want to play with. Obviously,
Can you give us a two, maybe top two on the men's and top two on the women's you'd hope to get drafted with?
yeah. In terms of players that I'd like to get drafted and play with, I think I would say Zane Navratil would be one. I think he's just a lot of fun. I enjoy having a good time on court, and not being like crazy serious. Yes, I want to win just as bad as anybody else, but I also want to enjoy kicking ass, not just feel like
And his teams have seen success in MLP, right? And I think
that's
there's
right.
absolutely something to what you're saying here in terms of the chemistry, in terms of the vibe, right?
Yep.
Which is what is so, I don't think people realize in MLP is so important, and probably a reason why we've seen so much action in terms of the most recent shuffle draft. There's just something, you can't put a price on team chemistry. And I definitely think you got to have a good time on the court with your teammates in order to do that. So I love that choice there. Give us some more.
Yeah, I think it'd be him and maybe Julian Arnold. I think
Okay.
Wow,
again,
okay.
another
Andiamo.
big
All
energy.
right.
Yeah, another big energy guy. It's easy to kind of feed off of that as well, right? And start playing better even whenever a day's going bad, compared to when you're playing with someone a little more stoic or quiet. Then you're not really sure what's going on, right? Just that's what they're trying to do. They're trying not to show anybody what's going on, whether it's good or bad. But yeah, when you're playing with somebody and you feel like yourself, like myself, I'm playing terrible that day or something, it kind of makes it harder to amp yourself up to start trying to find your game when you're playing with somebody that's super quiet. Yeah, on the girl side, let's see. I would say the number one player in the world, Lee Whitwell, would be one.
Let's go! Lee's Lions Den, baby. A group of fans that just travel around with Lee. I'm getting that started next year for MLP.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. I mean, what can you say? She's just a lot of fun to play with, to be on court with, to be off court with. The energy's there, stuff like that. Yeah, it's great. And then the kind of quiet one that still has a lot of energy and stuff, that's Vivian David.
All right.
She's great.
She's more quiet in terms of what she shows in like to everybody, but when you're talking with her in between points and stuff, she'll give you what you need. And yeah, can't deny like her, Corinne, big smiles on court, myself. Yeah, just again enjoying our time out there is the biggest part for me.
Yeah, and like Johnny keeps harping on, I think we're all hoping to see more MLP next year. I think once we start seeing it and we all start, the players, the viewers, even, the tour start seeing this team style, we'll see how much, you can't just go by the rankings when you look at who's going to win. It's all about this team chemistry, who covers for who the best, who fits what your teammate can't do better than the other person. If you have two great players, but they kind of do the same thing, how is that going to look against two players that are worse, but are literally like the perfect tandem? And then you get into that, you find the perfect tandem, but then with MLP, you're swapping on your team. So you got to be able to play not just with one person, but with everyone. And what kind of atmosphere and the differentiator than the type of pickleball we've seen from anything else. It's going to be interesting to see what are those teams and what is that chemistry that seems to work. Like you said, for you, it might be worth it to even have a little bit slightly of a worser player that's going to be loud and have fun and pick you up on the court than being with, a better player who's a machine. And when you do something or they do something or the game's going a certain way, you just don't know how it's going. That person on their own may be your best chance at kind of, quote unquote, winning the next point. But that's not how it works in doubles. Yeah. Just because their skill is the best has nothing to do. There could be a ball down the middle that you guys don't communicate and who gets it. So that team style and who wants to play with who and who is falling out and what rivalry start in the MLP that then travel through the PPA and the APP the rest of the month. It's going to be a ton of fun. And this whole thing is expanding, getting crazy. And we're just excited to see who's playing where and who's playing with who. And Joey's here this weekend and he's that weekend. And he told us on stream he was going to get his travel up, and we're sitting here in April, and you have gotten your travel up, and that's what we're all hoping for. But Johnny, as we wrap up, we got to, close as we hit the top of the hour, and the next team comes on for a stream. Is there anything else for our friend Joey, or until next time?
Joey, I guess my last question I'll ask is, there's been some rumor circulating, and maybe it's wishful thinking, but do you foresee PPA players and getting back onto the MLP courts anytime soon? Some sort of agreement or something changing there with maybe even some of the top contractual players to be able to play with the MLP crew again?
100%. Yeah. I don't see, Tom being a dumb man and not realizing MLP and what they're doing, with the amount of people that are starting to watch it and see it. And Steve's the same way, right? It's a business to them, and they're both super successful businessmen. As much as this year sucked where they couldn't work things out to get them on board, it's not like they're not going to hold a grudge and be like, nope, you didn't do it first year. We're not letting you in. As I think if they can come to mutual terms on stuff, which they should be able to, I don't see next year not having those PPA contracted players on MLP teams, which is going to make it even more fun and more unique, where we'll have, everybody, all the pros, competing for one of those spots, especially with the expansion of, adding another, 4 teams or so.
Yeah, talk about ratings. I mean, if you're going to get viewers, you've already got the pickleball diehards. Now you're getting those that are on the fringe that are looking at, hey, they might recognize Ben Johns. They'll probably recognize Tyson McGuffin. He's just recognizable, right? He is what he is. And then, of course, maybe Annalee Waters. Now you're getting them everywhere, right? You're seeing that double exposure. I think that's just going to be great for business all around. Like you said, smart businessmen can work those things out where it's mutually beneficial.
No, I agree with that. The last thing I'll leave you with, Joey, is if you talk to Tom anytime soon, tell him that his Hurricane put up a good battle against my Rangers. But, Game 7 happened to go our way, and sometimes you run into a wall, otherwise known as Igor Shesterkin, and it's happened to others, and it might happen to him again. But just let him know that. No, I agree with you guys. Smart businessmen. Even though sometimes they have egos, the bottom line sometimes drives it more than egos. And I think what you both said about viewership, sponsorship, it just makes too much sense. But, we'll come to a close. Joey, this was freaking awesome. I enjoyed talking to you. If there wasn't a show popping on after, we could have probably gone for another hour. But let's make plans to do this again, sometime soon. Sometimes,
absolutely.
Maybe before the year ends, we'll hop back on and we'll do a little deep dive into what the next year looks like for Joey.
Yeah, that'd be great.
20 seconds for any sponsors you want to shout out, Joey?
I mean, Jigsaw, they've helped me. I was fortunate enough to meet them early on when they were before pickleball. I gave them their first pickleball lesson. Which was funny, in Flagstaff. And then obviously Engage was the first sponsor. They, got me to really start diving into pickleball. And then Gearbox, which is basically family now. They've been amazing and supportive, helping me, land jobs and clinics and travel. And a lot of this wouldn't have been possible without Gearbox for sure. They've been number one for me.
Awesome,
we hear
Joey,
about how much the sponsors mean. It's great to hear that from you. But thanks again, Joey, Johnny. As always, I'll see you on Thursday. And to all of you watching, this will be recorded and posted. And have a beautiful and blessed night, everybody.
Take care, guys. Take care, Joey.